Hello again, this is Peter from Transcended Studios, and as part of our HEAL initiative, we're doing another disorderly game walkthrough with Gris. This is day 3. The color green is the color we'll be trying to work through today, and glad to have you all here. If anybody wants to chime in on things being said, in the chat, you're more than welcome to. We'd love to share stories and talk together, work together, and grow together through our struggles with whatever disorders we're dealing with to become the people we really want to be and learn who we are. This, of course, is video 3. The other 2 videos will be on YouTube soon, and until I have enough likes in the Twitch world, I am unable to upload them. So feel free to like, and if you're seeing this on YouTube, subscribe, like, and comment as well. Hope to have a conversation with everyone, both on Twitch and as well as YouTube. Thanks again for being here. Let's hop into this together and see what we get. We're going to continue and see where it continues from. As we talked about yesterday, Gris has a kind of an ethereal concept of where it saves from. So I had just acquired the color green yesterday. Okay, we're right at that point now. And we'll go from there. We talked a bit about the colors in the past couple of days, about what we felt they might have represented. The color green has always, at least to me and a lot of other people groups, represented growth. Interestingly enough, it was the first color mentioned in the Bible, a lot of other things like that. So what does the color green mean to you? And what does it represent in your life? Of the 2 colors we've already discovered in Gris, both red and green, what ones do you enjoy and why? What ones do you feel resonate with where you are today? Let's see what Gris is dealing with today. Yeah, we talked about yesterday about kind of the symbolism of constellations as direction, as leading people towards something, and how prevalent that is in this game. I assume that's how they're being used here. Often they become bridges, extensions to another place. And like we said a day ago, that seems to be the way just about everybody has used them. That's unfortunate. I don't know if that's good or not. Again, we talked about the symbolism of birds in multiple different races and nationalities, representing something evil or something that takes. Well, this game is definitely adventurous. And things that I long to do normally is kind of explore every area of the game and bolster myself up, usually in RPGs and other stuff like that, kind of discovering these unknown places first gives you an advantage, and I always like an advantage. Interestingly enough, due to my PTSD and other issues that I'm dealing with right now, and heck, my whole life, I didn't learn well how to deal with failure, making mistakes, growing up in a household where mistakes were seen as weakness, not an opportunity to learn. And so that's kind of difficult. And presently, I don't take well with making mistakes because in my previous profession, I was told I was making mistakes when I actually wasn't. And that was never remedied. And that, amongst a couple of other things, led to my mental breakdown. And so I feel very, I guess, pressured or endangered when I make mistakes. And so even the smallest amounts of, like this game has wonderful options, directions, and flow to it that aren't necessarily cookie cutter or on rails, as they like to call it in the gaming world. You know, it's actually a little more difficult. And here's a great example of things that I'm no good at: platforming. Oh, who knows how many times I'm going to have to try to do that. Well, we shall find out. Back to making mistakes. I'm trying to learn my best to actually enjoy the making of mistakes and the difficulty of learning from making mistakes. I was kind of surprised I pulled off that platforming section on the second try, because again, I'm woefully bad at platforming, as I expressed the day before. Since we're talking about it in chat and also down in the comments on YouTube, how do you deal with the mistakes? What do you find is the best way to approach failure in your own life and making mistakes? How do you find that you work through those well and make yourself better on the other side? What kind of attitudes or, I guess, mantra or understanding do you have with yourself about that? I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear some of our victories and hear what we might have, as a group, can learn from one another. Hello. It's so nice to have somebody on chat. Nice to meet you. Welcome. Thank you, Mushi. You can call me Peter, or my gamer handle from the old days back in the 80s when I grew up was Fog. Back when you could only have 3 letters for a name. It's so nice to have you on this morning. How are you today? I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for asking. It was a harder morning for me. I don't know if you've kind of read up. This is like my 4th time on Twitch, so again, there's very little understanding about how to communicate with people well. This is a walkthrough of Gris, but the primary concept that I have here is about 2 years ago, I suffered a medical emergency that killed me twice. And the results of that were huge amounts of PTSD and other anxiety disorders and stuff. And so I know that many people are dealing with that nowadays. And so many people are dealing with the new complex difficulties of life in this post-COVID world. And I wanted to give game reviews and walkthroughs. Oh, thank you. That encourage people to find ways of expressing themselves and enjoying themselves that are compatible with individuals who have disabilities and fears like mine. Because it's a terrible place to be. And sometimes people don't know what things are compatible with that. And so I'm walking through some of these games where we can have a discussion about how we deal with those hurts and those struggles in our life, and what we're doing, and kind of have a place to think openly about how we experience stress, PTSD issues, agoraphobia, all these things that I've dealt with, and most of all, how to enjoy games and each other in it. So it's really a pleasure to have you. Oh, I'm so glad that you found that the community's good. That's really my hope. I see so much communication and connection and love and support from the people. And even the kind of, I guess, what I would call fun against a lot of the video gamers that I watch is all in lightheartedness. So it's so nice to have you on today. If you enjoy what you see here, and if it's a blessing for your day, feel free to like the channel, and I'd love to see you back. I try to stream every day. Again, a lot of what I deal with is medically moderated. Today it was really hard for me to get going today. But I'm here, and it's so nice to have you here as well. Is there anything you'd like to share about your life? Have you ever played Gris? Do you deal with any stress or anxiety? Have you ever lost a job? Things like that. And again, don't feel pressured to share, but it's always helpful to hear other people's stories and know we're not alone in it. And again, it's such a pleasure to have you here, Mushi. Thank you for your insight and being present. This is a very laid-back channel. Oh, good. I'm very grateful. Yeah. I fully agree. I'm so glad that I sought out counseling too. I'd been suicidal for months, and I'd lost everything: my job, my health, my mind, my income, and counseling really made a difference. It brought me out of those seriously dark days, and I'm still working through working with my body. That's always a tough thing for me right now, because in December I almost died. I couldn't read for about 6 months. My eyes were so bad, and I ended up not even being able to lift up 3 pounds. I thought I was going to die, and then I got COVID. And but God carried me through, and I had a terrific wife and the love of some dear friends who work with me and have been helping me. And so, since I finally got to a place where I could even begin to look at screens again, something I used to love was video games, because I feel like they're one of the finest books, so to speak, or they're one of the greatest media available today, and I really appreciate the stories that they can tell. Ah, well, I'm glad you haven't ever lost it. Thank you for your compassion. It means so much. It has been tough. Um, you know, uh, yeah, I'm glad that you had a lot of good family this past year. That's so special. I just had my aunt over a day ago. There was whole months where I couldn't even see family because I was just bedridden. But it's so essential to have tight family and friends, um, and to have people who hear you and listen to you and believe you. I'm so glad you never experienced losing a job. That makes me so happy. um, it's not something I would wish anybody to even experience, because it's a scary thing, especially when you have family to care for. And I think the toughest part for me is I've never been at a place where I couldn't work. And that was genuinely scary, and still is. I'm still unable to work. I wish I could, but I have about 30 or 40 minutes of energy a day. And I'm just getting to the place where I can use my eyes enough to look at a computer, which was my old business. I used to run IT for about 35 different companies. Wow. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it'd be hard. I don't know. It's funny. I see a lot of jobs, not necessarily kind of the ones that you may be talking about, the specialized jobs, or the ones that actually kind of are your heart and soul and the thing that you're made for. I do see a lot of things like Menards and Pizza Hut and, other jobs like that available today, which is encouraging. And I think that might be because of the kind of concerns for individuals with health and COVID. It may be easier to stay at home and to work with, what do they call it, unemployment until kind of the danger's over. But yeah, I don't know. There's so many unanswered questions about what it's like out there now, I think personally, I was happy to see that in the past year there was a lot more jobs that were considered essential. Even quite a few of my old clients were considered essential enough to still be open, which made me happy because I really love to serve people. And I had 35 businesses I helped, and I hate seeing people fail. It's such a difficult thing. Yeah, well, I lost my. Thanks for asking, Moshi. I lost my job because of the injury. I was at a dentist, and I had an emergency, and I died twice. My heart stopped twice, and I had a seizure. And my doctor said a lot of things. One, that it was stress related, that kind of worked against my body for so long. And unfortunately, my health continued to decrease after that. My mental health was horrible. Dying is a thing that I don't even want to explain to people, how horrible it is to die and come back and die again. The pain's incredible, and the fear is hard to even describe. So yeah, and I do have a lot of friends who had lost their IT jobs during 2020. What have you experienced? If you're willing to share. Again, don't feel like you have to. But it's so good to hear what other people are doing to survive and enjoy and make it through this time. And it's great to have you here. And an honor to have you watch me platform atrociously in a very beautiful game. and possibly get lost in a beautiful game. I feel like this game opens up after the color green and just becomes almost a question about how far and... Oh, thank you. Cal, that means so much. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's a different kind of genre and than a lot of the streams I see. I feel like this stream is a bit more heartfelt than most. Not as entertaining, but definitely genuine. And I really want to encourage people to enjoy their time here and share their stories. Ah, interesting. Had that game talked to you, that desert-like game, at all? Has it helped you with anything in life? I got this Gris originally when I had lost my mind and I was suicidal, because I heard, and before I lost my vision, because I heard that it was a very emotional and healing type game. And at that time I was searching for anything to help me deal with where I was at and what issues I was having. And so the funny thing is, I really don't remember any of this game. So it's almost like playing it for the first time, because I was in such a stressful and hurt state that I don't remember any of it. But I do value how beautiful it is. It's really it is really a game that makes me think and feel. Have there been games that have helped you through your stress, like in college, when you were speaking to counselors? Do you engage in games with your family? How have you made it through 2020? Moshi, and what things do you find to be the most beneficial in helping you get through last year? Oh, wonderful. Company's coming to you. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's so good to hear. I just love the, it's interesting. I've always been an entrepreneur. I essentially have owned my own business for almost 20 years now before I lost it due to health. And I do hope that I can get to the place where I can do it again. I've never been a huge fan of working for companies, because so often I find that they can usually be places of a lot of stuff that I dislike, contention and lies and all this other weird stuff. But I know there's good companies out there, and that there's companies that value their employees and really look out for them. I used to work for a bank way back in the day, and that was a quite fun job as an IT guy there. Banks weren't terribly rigid. I mean, they were very structured, but some of the beauty was they had very consistent rules for a lot of people and a pretty good HR. So I'm so glad to hear they came after you. That's an awesome feeling. It's nice to feel valued even before you work in a place. Do you feel like your value has been reciprocated even more since you've worked there? Do you feel like that's the That's the way they're treating you? And you don't have to share this if you don't want. I simply ask these questions because I love hearing people's stories and hearing especially their breakthrough and their victories in life, and that people value good people. That's such an important rule that I don't often see. Oh, that's tough. You know, that is tough to be fully competitive with yourself. Sometimes there's a lot of benefits to that, but I grew up in a very, I guess, narcissistic home, and you know, nothing was ever good enough ever, and I think that that's what led to my downfall, physically. In the past, I had worked. I've actually worked 120 hours a week 3 times, and that's not a good thing. You know, some people brag about that, but I look back on it now after my heart stopping twice and realize that that's inappropriate and it doesn't actually care for me. And so I've learned a lot of things that I wish I would have known in the past, but I didn't actually. Ooh, let's see, what's the CEO and the manager? Great. Oh, that's terrific. Oh. You know, that's kind of that's wonderfully fun to be given more responsibility than than you think is good. I had one of the larger businesses that kind of curried me too. Invited me in. Had multiple servers, hundreds of employees, a lot of stuff going on, and I'm just one guy at the time. I had a staff eventually, but when I started at that place, it was scary, because I was also serving about 34 other companies at the time, and I really had questions if I could do all of this alone. And again, like I was saying, it was probably more than I should have been doing, unfortunately. But it ended up working okay for the time being. So, something I hope you feel and know is, and I was never told this growing up either, but you're good enough just who you are. And it's nice that they found you and valued you, because I think it's easier to acknowledge that truth, that you're valuable in who you are, not in just what you do, when people seek you out for the value that was put in you. So, yeah, and again, I'm not requiring anything of you, Mushi. It's just me sharing what little things I know, and I'm so glad to hear about, your breakthrough, and that you're being trusted with more. I mean, that's a great place to grow. Do you like growing in situations like that? Do you feel like being trusted with more than you can handle is beneficial for you? Or do you find like that's extra stress? I am going to. Thank you so much for the encouragement. Even just this past month, I've kind of started to write a few things down. It's been so long since I could look at a computer, which was really kind of heartbreaking. I mean, for 9 months, I couldn't even read a book, let alone look at anything that moved. So it's been a while. And, writing is still a very emotional experience. And I mean, even describing death and hurt and all these other things that I've kind of dealt with takes a bit of time to settle into. Interesting. Appreciation for tradition. That's awesome. That is one of the deepest things. I think that's kind of essentially the true sense of wisdom, is to desire to learn from other people's mistakes and not hurt. That's so powerful and smart. I think if more people desired that, I think there'd be a lot less hurt in life. And I think that'll put you ahead years ahead of your peers, and definitely years ahead of kind of the hurt that you could experience just kind of fumbling through life. That's so smart and so awesome. Nice. I like that the stress is at kind of a healthy level. Yeah, a lot of things I've learned about stress, I'm no pro at managing it by any means, or by knowing stuff. But I do know that the more I know who I am in a situation and what my values are and how to care for me, the less stress ends up affecting me. So I think that what you're saying is really powerful about pacing yourself and balance. And yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, it has changed in the last few decades. I don't know how old you are, but I graduated college in 2000, and it's interesting. It's interesting to see, even technologically, things, of course, have changed immensely. And that's my niche, so to speak, where I love things, art and technology, and that's why I started Transcendent Studios, kind of to express the beauty of art and how it can kind of set our souls free in a tough world. Ah, nice. So good. Yeah, it's so fun to meet the next generation. It's so encouraging and beautiful. I love the choices that so many in this generation are making, and how they're really working to better who they are and the world around them. I really love it. Speaking of tradition, what things have you learned from previous generations that bless your life? What things do you wish you would have experienced but are glad you were able to, thanks to people talking to you? By the way, I can't thank you enough for being on here again. It's really helpful, especially in a level that's this, I guess, long, and I don't want to use the word convoluted, but it's full of platforming, which I am horrible at. So it's nice to have somebody to interact with during this time. Yeah, I agree with that. that the traditional family has a lot more, or the traditional life has a lot more family in it. I often like to wonder why that is, why it's easier to get alone nowadays. I do know that there is differences in generations in how they see the world and how they deal with their surroundings. And I know that a lot of things have changed. And I think maybe it's harder to be a family nowadays. I don't know. I think there's a lot more distractions. I'll give you that. Where, I think we're in a very unique generation. I mean, my parents grew up, in the 60s and 70s, and it's interesting, and I guess everybody's family is a little different. Yeah. I find it interesting, too, that not everything is just so straightforward, that there are healthy families, there are not healthy families, there's families that make really good choices, families that don't, families that are willing to work through problems, families that aren't. My counselor said something, this one. Interesting. Yeah, that's a concept I never thought of. Just as an entrepreneur, I tend to not necessarily think that way, that companies kind of expect individuals to move. Breaking up the family. Yeah, that's pretty deep. Thanks for sharing that companies, in a way, can be causing some of the movement away from family. How do you find that kind of pushing yourself, that challenging yourself constantly, how do you find that applies to family and yourself? Do you see it all where like you can push yourself so much that you tend to avoid family? Do you feel like it brings you more towards family? Figuring this game out. Thanking God that the platforming isn't that horrible. Because boy, am I poor at it. Here again, kind of what I talked about a couple of streams ago, where birds in many nationalities have been seen as dangerous or harmful. And I know that this one is similar in this game. I love the symbolism of this game. Yeah. Oh, that's so sorry to hear about your depression. That's tough. And, I found, at least in my life, that sometimes you have to be even selective with family, because a lot of times people won't understand depression, or they don't want to deal with it. You know, when I was going through like deep, horrible depression, quite a bit of my family just had the buck up and deal with it kind of mentality, and but another good deal of my family actually understood and helped us through. I mean, without the help of friends and family, I wouldn't be in my house right now. I mean, I'm still in danger of losing it in the next month or two, because we're running out of finances, and I'm doing my best to get to a place where I or my wife can work. She's been caring for me for over 900 days. You know, it's been helpful that the right people at the right time are lifesavers. Yeah, I don't know many that do, because I think what Moshe said here is that his culture doesn't have a good attitude towards mental illness. And I think that's right on. I think that's common because it's such a scary thing. I think it admits we're fallible. You know, back before I had a full mental breakdown, I thought mental illness was just an excuse that people used for not being able to deal with real life. And the sad part is it's genuinely real. It's a genuine issue, and it's a real thing, and it's not attitude based necessarily. You can't just happy yourself out of things. I mean, having a good attitude helps the healing and helps the processing, but it's not a fake thing. My family and my growing up, or something. Yeah, it's tough, you know. My family, you know, when I broke my knee on a motorcycle accident once, my mom is a very capable, tough individual. She's a labor and delivery nurse and has seen just about almost every bit of craziness that can be experienced when birthing kids. And so little things like a broken knee can be easily overlooked when you have to kind of harden yourself to some of the really horrible spookiness of life. And I think that's where we can run into issues. Yeah, it's hard to even explain the pain to yourself, and you're the one enjoying it, or not enjoying it, but experiencing it, you know? Yeah, it's so confusing, and I'm so sorry you ever had to go through that. Yep. You know, the medicine is very, you know, in a really weird sense, because of my heart issues, I tried multiple medicines to help with my depression and my issues, and I wasn't able to take any because they affected my heart in ways that were really dangerous. And so I've struggled through this for almost 3 years now on my own, working on my own thought patterns and my own emotions to get better at things. And it's been tough. I know that my experience is years longer than most people, probably because of the inability for drugs to help me through this. But in a sense, I'm really glad, because when I was taking those drugs, even for the week or two that I was taking them, I didn't feel like myself, and I think it would have continued to help me be the person I didn't want to be the person that got me into these stressful and life-damaging situations to begin with. And so, in a sense, I'm really glad that all I was able to deal with was counseling and no pills. But I know that it made the experience a lot longer. And it's been very damaging physically, mentally, and especially financially. Yeah, yep. And you know, there's really something to not just fixing things with pills. You know, if you have problems sleeping, Moshi, this is something interesting that I heard once, and I don't know what you believe about dreams and them speaking to you, but one night I woke up and I heard the word Valerian 3 times in a row. Valerian, Valerian, Valerian. And I was like, what the heck is Valerian? And when I looked it up, it's an herb that helps with sleeping. And so I began taking that, and it's been very helpful in helping me stay asleep and kind of groggy at night. Because often I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be awake and just be up. And unfortunately, my new medical pills, the pills that are helping with my eyes and my joint and muscle disorders, are very, they wake me up and I have to take them at 2 in the morning. But valerian still helps, so, you know, that may be something to help you a bit as your days go by if you need some more rest at night. So maybe that'll be helpful. And it's safe. I really enjoyed it for over a year now. And back to what you were saying so wisely about behavioral improvement. I think that that's really what I learned in the past 3 years, is that my behaviors are what led to my breakdown. The way I've dealt with stress, the way I bear responsibility for things that aren't mine to bear, the way that I push myself too hard. These are all behaviors, and they're all me. And I'm the one that needs to go changing that, so to speak. And just medication alone doesn't answer or doesn't change the way I work with the world. It just works with the way I handle the world. And I really want to learn how to work with the world differently, because I knew there was more to me than who I was letting myself be. And the sad part was, a good deal of who I was very narcissistic and broken. I had so much hurt in my past that I let that speak into how I treated others and how I lived. And I'm glad that, almost so to speak, that my life was so bad that I had to look at who I was and decide if that was the real me. And I'm glad I was able to find a me that I love in the midst of that, and begin to choose to live from that. Well, you know, there's 2 great doctors on YouTube that talk about narcissism, and I didn't see it in myself until I started to really hear what their definitions are. And I believe I used to fit into what they called a vulnerable narcissist, or somebody who's been hurt so much they choose narcissism for protection. And it was really helpful to hear the kind of things that a narcissist does, because I don't like it. I grew up in a family where there was a lot of narcissistic hurt and control, and I don't think it was helpful or good for anybody. And I think even noticing that I was a narcissist was helpful. Because number one, that means you aren't so narcissistic you don't care. And And I could begin to, in the choosing the new me, move away from these parts of narcissism that I never liked. And really see it. Those two doctors are Dr. Ramani, Ramani, I believe, and another doctor, Dr. C. I forget what his last name is. But if you look up vulnerable narcissist, he has a great kind of description of it. So maybe maybe those will be helpful, because it was so good for me to see that I was a narcissist, because I was able to go, God, I really hate that. I hated it when I experienced it as a kid from my family, and I don't want to be it now for anybody. And I believe it's cost me a lot of at least friendships, or at least hurt a lot of my friends. And so I think it's really deep that you see yourself as a narcissist. And I mean, it's your choice if you want to change that or not, you know? Narcissists have a great way of getting by in life, but and getting a lot of things done. You know, I own my own business. I was making 6 figures. I was working for 34 different companies. I had a staff. You know, these were all very powerful and interesting things because of kind of my attitude towards life. But it ended up killing me. It ended up hurting my family. My wife had to live with an absolute asshole for years. And it wasn't my intent to be one. It's just the natural kind of outcome when you don't want to be intimate with others and don't value what they say and don't value yourself. These are all kinds of the, I guess, the results of narcissism. And so, thanks to my full breakdown, I think I got to a place where I could look at my life differently. And thanks to, oh, Journey. Okay, thank you for the game update. It's always interesting to find new games. You know, I really want to begin to explore some new games and see how they affect people with stress and disorders. And you know, I want to be able to give an opinion on things that might help people, like you said, make moves towards being who they want to be, towards treating themselves better, towards loving on themselves a bit more. Thank you for that. I wanted to ask, are you glad you're a narcissist? Do you feel like that's something that's holding you back, or something you enjoy? Do you, how do you see that affecting your life? And you don't have to answer that, because sometimes that's a very difficult thing to admit to or even work with. Yeah, that's hard. But look at how awesome you are at understanding that and making moves away from that. You know, something else that I found out in life, Moshi, is that you get what you value. And it sounds to me like you really value wisdom and do value caring for yourself. And I want to encourage you that because you value those things, you'll get them. It'll happen. Unfortunately, not everything is easy, and not everything is, not a lot of people will care about you enough to help you work towards those values. But because they're values, you'll constantly be drawn to them. And I think you have some really awesome things set up for you, even in your 20s. And hopefully, unlike me, maybe you can avoid some of the pitfalls of life, you know? I had worked 85-hour weeks for years on end, and stuff like that, and those were just never wise. But I think I see you really valuing yourself, and I never did that. I always thought I was the one that needed to break for other people's needs. Um, hmm. Yeah, yep, that's so true. That's one of the hardest things that I've learned about depression and narcissism. And Dr. Ramani again talks about that so much that um, narcissists and people who are kind of a result of narcissism lose the ability to enjoy just the little things. And I used to just love playing with ants on the sidewalk. And it's so hard now. Thank you for asking why I work so hard. Well, this is a great place to kind of take a pause. Um, but I'll continue to answer the question to Moshe here because it's so powerful. I grew up, like I said, in a narcissistic family, and there was a lot of what I would call codependency, where I felt like it was my job to take care of other people, which is a common kind of outlier for people who grew up in a narcissistic environment. And so, what I was taught growing up is that if everybody else's problem isn't solved, I'm not safe. I'm not okay. I'm not free to be me. And so I would work and work and work to resolve all the problems around me, so that I could even have a minute of time on my own or feel like I was valuable or safe. And it goes into a lot more than that. But maybe that'll come out in other times. There's some deeper hurts that I don't really care to share right now, but it might happen. But that was why I worked so hard. And I got through college in 3.5 years with 2 majors and, had my own job right after college. And, but I was doing all of that to feel safe. And instead of knowing that I'm okay and safe and valuable apart from what I can do, that's why I worked so hard. And it never got me anywhere. I mean, it got stuff done. It gave me a lot of money. I paid off my house, which is why we're still in it after 3 years of me being unemployed. There's some benefits to it, but the stress and strain that it took on my life is amazing. I mean, I'm 43. I shouldn't have died multiple times. Nice. What is a community night, if you don't mind me asking? That's damage emotionally or physically. How do you feel like the damage is done? I mean, I've died 4 times now, and I'm 40, but I'm choosing to move forward. You know. And the beautiful thing is, your brain is the only organ that continues to have the ability to improve your whole life. Oh, that's really wonderful. Yeah, I've been looking for some friends to play different games with. Again, I'm very limited on my ability to watch. I have about a 30 or a 40-minute window, usually, on playing a game. Um, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice. Great games. Uh, and yeah, it's been something that I'm trying to get into a bit to meet people to enjoy that. And I really do hope that this time today has been so special. It's been special for me to hear from you and just experience you and honesty. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that sucks. You know, it's so difficult, Moshi. I mean, even for me, like the one thing in December, I couldn't lift a 3 pound weight with one hand. And my eyes were so screwed up I couldn't read books, and I was pretty much laying in bed waiting to die. And then I got COVID, and I've never been this weak in my life. I don't understand it. I don't. It's not something that I can even comprehend. Like that 30 or 40 minutes. I took a little 10-minute walk this morning outside, and I had to lay down for 3 hours because it was such an effort. And I don't understand this. I've gone to a specialist just last week, and she's scheduled about 12 more weeks of tests on me just to see what the heck's going on. But something I did find. Oh yeah, nice. Thank you. It does. It does take time. And if you are seeing a doctor, I don't know what your weakness or your issues are, but a drug that I found that I think saved my life in December and has turned my life around. It's slow, but up until December, I was dying, and I feel like I'm not dying now. I'm getting better. Is a drug called low dose naltrexone. Naltrexone. Yep, yep. Oh, I'm so sorry you're there, brother. I can totally relate to that. I have one of those platforms that shakes that you stand on to work out your whole body. And if I do a 7 minute session on that, I can barely move the next day. I'm so sorry you're experiencing that. Oh, that's terrible. Um, oh, well, if you ever find a way or yeah, yeah, I can understand. The 4 times I've died have all been in a hospital. The first time, a doctor gave me a wrong drug and it stopped my heart twice, and then the second time was in a dentist's office. Um, and it's still very stressful for me to even enter doctors' offices because of that. There's just so much trauma there. And I've never had good things. The first doctors that I've liked are the last two I've found. um, so I know that there's good doctors out there. And something that's really encouraging me, Moshi, is that your generation is making some of the best doctors I have ever seen. I met one um, who's my current professional doctor who's trying to figure out what's dealing with me. The what do they call him? Specialist. And she is a phenomenal physician. She knows what she's talking about. She understands people. She understands how important the whole person is. And I think that your generation is making the finest doctors I've ever seen. Yeah, I don't know what state you live in. It sounds like you're in Great Britain. Um, you know, I wish I could su- suggest my counselor. She's outstanding, but she can only work in Michigan due to legal rights. Um, Again, if you want to look into that low dose naltrexone, just do some research on your own. It trains your body to deal with pain differently, and it uses your own body to train itself, which is really helpful. And it's before that I was taking 1,800 to 2,400 milligrams of ibuprofen a day and essentially killing myself just to stay out of the pain. Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you so much for caring about how tired I am. That means a lot, and I would love to talk to you more. Is there a way to become friends in this world? Again, I sound like I've never streamed. It's because I haven't. I'm gonna record your name. Um, and I would love to talk with you more. It's been such a great time to to see you and to hear from you. And I want to thank you so much for your honesty. This is what I long for in this chat, to explore the truths of our lives and how we can move on and grow through the stuff that we're in. I want to acknowledge you for how open you are, how powerful you are. And I really want to thank you for your honesty. And I think you're an amazing individual that has such a future ahead of him because of the way you're looking at things. It's beautiful. And I think you're, in all honesty, way better off than you think you are. Wow. Thank you. I hope that's not referring to better people than you, but just better people in my life, because I think it's been a pleasure to be with you. It's terrific. Yeah, that's been one of my concerns is I know that people who hurt people, as Joyce Meyer likes to say. Um, and she should know. She grew up being raped as a girl and knew how to hurt people really well. Um, but she turned out to be a totally different person. That is one of my concerns, is trolls and just people who don't give a rip because they've been hurt. And it's hard for me to even deal with nice people. So thank you, brother or sister, whatever you are. It's been a beautiful time to chat with you, and thank you for being a part of this. It's an honor. Have a great day. And thank you all for joining the stream. Again, this is so open that I hope it's a blessing also for you on Facebook. If you want to chime in on anything that we talked about, share your opinions, that's so powerful too. That'll be where the recording goes until I get enough followers in Twitch to put this up there as well. So thank you all again for your time. We will be jumping into the color blue in soon on Gris and talk a bit about what that means to us. Have a great day. We love you all here at Transcendent Studios, and we wish you the best in becoming the person you want to be. Have a good day. Bye.